Hey, it's your girl, your favorite paralegal, aka Cassandra Lynn, and welcome to Legal Doc Talk 24/7. So, I did tell you all that I would hop back on once I get the updated information from the hearing. And whose hearing? James Wright versus Chrisean Malone, the civil case. She did have a hearing this morning. Now, when I say she, please note that in personal injury cases or civil cases for that matter, the parties' presence are not needed. I repeat, the parties' presence are not needed. So James nor Chrisean needed to be in the courtroom. This is something that is between the attorneys and the judge. Okay. Civil cases are totally different from criminal cases. I have said that time and time after time after time after time. Okay. The only time Chrisean and James will be in a courtroom is once trial is set and they're ready for trial. Chrisean and James will possibly meet one during depositions, but it's not where they both will be in the same room. The way that depositions work is that, um, and doing this from the plaintiff side. So, for the plaintiff will be in the same room as his attorney, a court reporter, probably a videographer, and Krishan's attorney. Okay, so the plaintiff will be deposed by Krishan's attorney. His attorney will be there just to object to anything that he does not want his client to answer. And then once James does his, it might be on a different day that Chrisean will be deposed. Okay. And in this case, it would be Chrisean, her attorney, and then James Wright's attorney, and James Wright's attorney will depose Chrisean. And Chrisean's attorney will obviously be there to object to anything that she does not want Chrisean to answer. That's how depositions work. And any witnesses, they might be able to be deposed, but they're never all in the same room. It might be different days, different times, whatever the case. Okay. um Now, there could be an instance during mediation where they might meet, but that's not always the case. They might be in different rooms, or Chrisean might be at her attorney's office, and James might be at his attorney office, and they're doing Zoom or they're doing phone conference, but they're mediating the case, and the mediator goes to each party and say, okay, well, this party said they're going to offer this, and then run to the other party to see if they accept, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's not taking place in a courtroom. All right, the only time Chrisean and James will have to appear before the judge is when they are announced ready for trial and they are actually in trial. Okay, so I do want everybody to be aware of that. So during this litigation process, from now all the way up to a couple of days before trial, they do not go before the judge. Okay, this is simply something that the attorneys are handling on the sidelines. They just pretty much, and that's the reason for these case management hearings, because the judge or the court wants to know exactly where the case is. That is why they set deadlines. And we've seen today that right now, Krishan's attorney has set deadlines for written discovery, subpoenas, depositions, and then to be determined would be the expert depositions, and that just depends on what they receive from plaintiff's counsel. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into what I came here for. All right. So what I am showing you guys is the court docket for today. as I stated, I looked on it earlier as I was kind of going over her case at the time, and it was not updated. But as you can see, the next case management conference is going to be on February 10th, 2025. Okay. Um, and then also the order to show cause, the failure to obtain default judgment, that will also be heard at the case management conference on that day. Their presence is not required. I repeat, their presence is not required. They are simply letting the judge know what has taken place since today until the day before February 10th. Now, on the case management statement that was submitted by Chrisean's attorney, they did state that they have a deadline for discovery to be completed within 75 days. So that is merely what, 2 months and some change, right? So right now we're at October, so November, December, so about January-ish they should have all of their discovery. That's what they're looking for. And then within 5 months, they're looking to do depositions. Okay. And that's after they have gathered all of the information that they need from discovery, subpoena all the information, and social media, phone records, whatever it is that they need to get, and then they can go ahead and schedule for depositions. But come February 10th, they have to at least have discovery done. So that way, when they do go before the judge and say, "Hey, judge, this is where I'm at," um, I won't be surprised if between now and this date, Chrisean's attorney actually files a couple of motion to compel in order to get the information that she need, because it is going to be, the whole thing is, James, you have to prove up your damages. You submitted only bills. You haven't submitted any records, like medical records showing the doctor's or the dentist's notes. You have to have that in order to prove up your damages. Okay. So February 10th is the next case management conference. So as you can see, the minute order has been filed. So I'm going to go ahead and switch screens so we can look at the order, or not the order, the minutes. Wrong terminology. Okay, so this is the minutes of the court for today. Let's see. So this was a meeting for the case management conference and the show cause hearing. Now, it says this matter is called for hearing. The court and counsel, all right, as you can see, it does not say anything about the plaintiff nor the defendant, okay, because their presence is not required. The order to show cause, read failure to file entry of default is discharged, meaning that it's kicked out. Well, I don't want to say off the docket because anything that's filed is going to remain on the docket, but it's no longer, um, how can I say this? They're no longer considering it. Let's put it that way. And because of that, the judge or the court has ordered for defendant to file a motion to set aside a default. And what that simply means is that you are requesting the court to vacate the default judgment. Now, why was it discharged? Well, let me finish reading this and then I'll kind of clear everything up. It says on the court's own motion, the case management conference is scheduled for 10/11 is continued to 2/10, which is February 10th, 2025 at 9 a.m. And then you also have the failure to obtain a default judgment is scheduled for February 10th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Okay, notice is waived. Now, the reason why there is even a discussion regarding the entry of default judgment is for a number of things. And when it comes to civil litigation, there's deadlines that you have to meet. And not just really civil litigation, that's any type of litigation, like as and that's why I'm on when it comes to filing the petition, making sure that you get the other party served. The other party has to respond within a certain time. If they don't, then you have to file an entry for default judgment at a certain time. So all of these have deadlines. You miss a deadline or you miss a procedure that's within the litigation process, you can jeopardize your whole case. All right. So the reason as to why James filed an entry of default is because Chrisean did not file a response to the lawsuit at in a specific time. And I told you guys this from the beginning, right? So if we look at the summons, because I want y'all to see something, and I know it's something I've already gone over, but each jurisdiction is different. So for Los Angeles or California, it states here that you have 30 days. You have 30 days to file a written response at that particular court and have a copy of that served to the plaintiff. So 30 calendar days, right? Chrisean was served on May 4th. Okay. So by June 3rd, she would have to have filed an answer in court. Now, if they looked on the docket and they seen that no answer was filed, James had to make sure that he requested to enter a default judgment within 10 days of Chrisean missing that deadline. So if we do so by June 13th, 14th, he would have to have submitted his entry for default judgment. Now, I'm going to go back to the docket so we can see exactly when he filed his entry for default. Sorry, I'm switching screens. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see. Hopefully everybody can see that. Okay. So I'm going to go down so everybody can see. So complaint was filed on the 6th. Summons was issued on the 6th. Chrisean was served on 5/4. They ended up filing the proof of personal service on 5/13. He entered his request for entry for default judgment on September 13th. That request was supposed to be submitted in June. He filed it in September. So that right there was his first mistake because as I stated before, the request has to be made within 10 days of the defendant missing the deadline. Now, is it going to mess up the case? No. The judge went ahead and he discharged the entry for default judgment. So that is why Chrisean's attorney went ahead and filed an answer because James, you already missed the deadline. See, when you file a entry for default judgment, what you're doing is it prevents the defendant from actually appearing in the lawsuit unless they have a really, 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 really good reason. So if the request for entry of default judgment was valid, then they would have moved on with the default judgment. But because he filed it technically 3 months later, wait, is that 3 months? Yeah, three 3 months later, you already missed the deadline. So we can go ahead, get rid of that, discharge that because the defendant went ahead and filed the answer, and she filed the answer stating that she wishes to pursue litigation. And here we are. All right. So to sum it up, the entry for default was discharged. Chrisean's lawyer now has to file a motion to set aside this entry of default. And anytime you set a motion, it goes before the judge hearing. However, they either going to meet it at the court or they're going to call in to go over that motion to set aside the default judgment. And I'm sure that the judge is going to go ahead and grant it. And then that James can no longer move forward with that default judgment. And it's a technically good reason because you filed 3 months too late. Okay? And that's it. That's pretty much everything on her case. All right. So that is what took place today on her civil case hearing. So once again, the entry for default has been discharged. Chrisean's attorney has to file a motion to set aside that entry for judgment, default judgment, and then they can go ahead and move on with the case. So now she can focus on gathering the discovery so that way they can move on to doing depositions. So as always, I'm going to keep an eye out on this case as well as her other civil cases, and will provide updates to you guys accordingly. Tell me what you think about this in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, be blessed, and I'm out. Bye.